Everybody, welcome. Thanks for joining us for this special edition of IntegrateLive featuring Sparkplug's PlugFest. Alan, it keeps getting me a little mixed up trying to say Sparkplug and PlugFest in the exact same sequence.
Yeah, and you think I'm going to help you? Have you heard me use the English language?
Yeah, I've heard you abuse the English language.
Yes, right. I think I called you Nipper last week.
You did, but it was a compliment. And I found out that Arlen actually added me to the will. And so I'm set, man. I'm good.
Well, you know, what's bad is I called you Nipper again during between now and then.
Yeah. I'm working through legally changing my name. Funny, weird side story. I found out we were making Karen jokes in the car last night. Like one of my kids referenced Karen. One of my daughter's classmates is named Karen, legally changed her name.
Wow.
Not a dad joke. Legally changed names.
I
gotta watch.
You gotta waiting for that.
I wish I had a punchline.
Legally change your name to what?
I don't even know.
Angry?
I could. All right, you ready to get started today?
I'm ready.
We've got a ton of folks registered this. I believe we're going to have over 300 people live on this today. And to our audience, what you're going to see today is a bunch of vendors participating, plugging their hardware and their software into an ecosystem that is going to get created in front of you. We've got nothing pre-built here. Everything's going to be on the fly. We expect some challenges along the way. It's going to be just we're probably going to go about 2 hours on this today. And we're just going to show the building out of an entire ecosystem. In fact, Alan, how about I bring Travis in from Inductive Automation, and why don't you guys walk us through what we're actually going to be seeing today?
Hey, Travis.
Hey, Alan, how you doing, man?
Good. You know what you get when you cross an elephant and a rhino?
What do you get?
Hell if I know.
Well, you know, Alan, I could tell a joke about a pizza, but it's a little cheesy.
Well done. All right, Travis. This is what we're doing today. It's a lot, but do you have I know you do, but can you share the confidence you have that we're going to get this done?
Oh, I have all the confidence in the world. This is going to be, there's a lot that's going on in this diagram here, but we're going to break it down in small pieces so you can see how all these things fit together, how everything connects up, and just how amazing it's going to be at the end to see all this data coming through, you know, in a single namespace. So if we look at it though, we've got really two kind of distinct pieces of this network. We've got our controls network, and so that's commonly, if you look at the Purdue model, that layer 3 kind of down there where the PLCs are. And we've got a PLC itself, PLC Next, that will be publishing its data over Sparkplug to the DMZ broker. So you see right in the middle is a Cirrus Link Chariot MQTT broker that's in the DMZ. Of course, there's a firewall there, so it's an outbound connection that's going to that Chariot broker. So a single port going to that outbound connection, all the data being published to that. Then you've got a Groov Epic controller as well that is publishing its data through Sparkplug to that Chariot device. And it also happens to have Ignition Edge running on that Groov Epic as well, as it's already pre-installed there. And it's connecting to legacy non-Sparkplug devices. So it's polling devices like Allen Bradley controllers or Modbus controllers, and bringing that data and publishing it into that broker as well. At the bottom there, you've got a DataHub from Software Toolbox that is connecting to basically OPC DA devices, so kind of really legacy, bringing that data, bringing it into that broker as well. So you've got a whole distinct set of devices from new greenfield to, of course, legacy and brownfield, all of that being brought in and being published to that broker in the DMZ. And that's what's cool about this, all outbound. So there's nothing inbound on that controls network. And Alan, I know how important that is coming from the user side. Anything you want to comment there on that?
Well, I'll just say that, you know, my time while I was there, one of the tasks that I was given is to come up with the methodology that we were going to use to get data from a true edge device that is connected to an LTE radio back into on-prem. And so the methodology that we used was MQTT. Well, first we spent a year with IBM and we could not get it done. Using MQTT, we were able to lock down all the incoming ports to the device, encrypt it, use TLS, and go right to a single endpoint in Azure, which then put it into our service bus. That same methodology is what we're using here it's within our organization on this drawing. It's in level 3, but we are outbound only. You can, if you have the capability like the Groov Epic, the PLC Next, you can actually lock down that device so that even if something was in that environment, it is protected. And so you could put a broker in level 3, but you don't need to. You don't need that extra hardware. You don't need the extra maintenance. You can just point it right to the DMZ, get it right to your broker, and then get that data progressing up. And the beauty of this is that it's a persistent connection. So it's not just a matter that I'm sending data out. It's the fact that I'm creating the conversation. The initiation of the conversation happens at the edge and goes outbound. But once that connection is made, I now have the ability to pass data between both the topic and the tags that I'm publishing. And so it gives me bidirectional data transfer, but it does it in a way that meets all the Purdue requirements.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the TLS security and the fact that it's outbound, the stateful connections. These are all the big benefits that we get of MQTT, and of course with Sparkplug, we are getting an architecture here where once all these devices are being published into that broker, then on the business side, on the application side, we're going to automatically discover all of that information that's coming in. So there's no work whatsoever besides connecting to that broker and to see all of that data with its context, right? So all the metadata that's going to be coming in, of course, if there's any models or assets, that will be a known entity that's coming into these applications. And it is many applications subscribing to the same data, right? They don't have to know about the edge devices themselves. They're not connecting to them. They're just simply connecting into that same MQTT server. So it's pretty incredible when we get a large set of data that we're talking about here automatically into these applications and different sets of applications. So if we look at on the business side, we've actually got 3 different applications that are going to be playing with that data. You got Canary up there. It's going to connect to it to Historian to basically historize all that data coming in from all those edge devices. And one thing that we'll talk more about later is that if there was ever a disconnect from the control network to that DMZ, to that broker, those edge devices will store and forward that data through Sparkplug. So that data will be buffered locally, forwarded up, and these applications won't skip a beat. So not only do we have that stateful connection and that outbound report by exception, but we get that store and forward. So we really get a very robust architecture here where data is going to be guaranteed to be delivered to these applications, and we're not going to lose that data. So we got Canary at the top. In the middle, we've got Flow software that's going to take that data and going to play around with it. We'll show some cool things there. And then we have an Ignition, standard Ignition server that's going to bring the data, and we're going to show a perspective app where we can look at that data in a dashboard and see all the stuff that's coming in. Plus, we'll also use that Ignition to kind of get a lay of the land of the diagnostics of this architecture. See all the devices that are connecting in, what are the metrics of those devices, and just get a good picture of that. So that's what we're looking at on the application side there. Alan, anything you want to bring in on that side?
Yeah, I really want to talk about the unified namespace and the single source of truth here, because one of the projects that I had the, I'm going to say privilege of working in was really working as an architect where I was tasked with trying to find value from our data. And so I transferred from OT to IT, worked with the architectural team, but I was tasked with grabbing the OT data, bringing it into IT, and then trying to monetize that data in a way that would be beneficial to the company. And the entire time that I was working in that space, the the ROI was killed almost every time we started because of data quality. Because you have a PLC that talks to a driver, and then that driver talks to an HMI. The HMI then has a different tag. Then you have the HMI transferring it to a historian or to some kind of warehouse, and that's a different tag. And so by the time we actually did the checking of data and the quality of it, we could never get it to a place that was a high enough quality that we could leverage the data to actually monetize it and add value, right? Now we're looking at from the source, creating a MQTT tag, publishing that tag to a broker. Everyone subscribes to that tag. And now you no longer have to create mapping tables and say, okay, this tag is this name here, this tag is this name here. Oh, in the PLC, the resolution is this, but the HMI is changed to this, and then the historian is changed to this, right? So you don't have to create all those mapping tables and the data quality rules that you would need to actually do that. And then if you go back and watch our episode 9, where Travis and Arlen showed where you could actually take the UDT model that you created at the edge and push it all the way into a data model that just generates it for you. So I think that's important. I also, on the architecture, you have your edge, which is the Ranger at the top. That is not in the network of the organization. It's literally on the edge with a cellular modem, the Ranger is a cellular modem, publishing right to Hive. And then you can subscribe to that and bring it right back on-prem, and you can do it all again. It's encrypted, it's TLS protected, it's all secure.
Yeah, so we got another piece there. We got what's in our network. We got, of course, what's outside going over cellular over to a HiveMQ broker that's in the cloud. And so you'll notice the applications are also connected not only to the local broker that's in the DMZ, but connected to the HiveMQ broker up there in the cloud. So we're getting access to all the data, right, from all the different devices in there. And the last piece of this architecture, which is the fun part for all the audience participation, is that we have stood up another HiveMQ broker in the cloud that is going to be public. So we're going to retransmit all this data to that cloud broker so that all of you could connect to it, subscribe, and play around with the data that we're bringing in here. So we'll provide some more details on how that works, but that is our plan here, Jeff.
Yep. Thanks, Travis. And I'm dropping those credentials right now, again, into the chat. To our audience, you can subscribe to that HiveMQ #2 broker. At the very end, I'll also turn on publish. So you'll change your credentials at that point, but you'll be able to also publish as well if we want to really just put it through its paces. Okay, Travis, why don't you show the audience, if they don't right now have an environment to participate, will you kind of give them a path towards that?
Absolutely. Go ahead and we'll share my screen here. And perfect. So there's 2 ways that you guys can participate and take a look at the data that we're bringing in here. First and foremost is using a tool out there called MQTT Explorer. You can go ahead and download this. It's a open source software. You can get it installed. And once you have it installed, you can enter in the credentials that Jeff's going to put in there. So we're going to connect to MQTT, to just the TCP protocol. We didn't secure this one just so it could be easy to get people to connect to. This is the host address, and the port is 1883, and the username and password for it is service and service. And so once you connect to that broker, you'll be able to see the different messages coming in. And right now, there's no data coming through on this. So we will retransmit that later on, and you'll see that data coming in on that. The other way you could participate is, if you want to, you can go and download Ignition. And with that, you go to the download section. You can download it for Windows or Linux. You can use a Docker install. And basically, once you have that, you can get, I'm going to go over here, download Ignition, and you download Cirrus Link's MQTT engine module. So we're going to show that here today, but you put that in Ignition, and then basically add the same, the broker settings, the same information, IP address, username, password, and then all that data would automatically start showing up in tags inside the Ignition Designer. So those are the 2 ways that we can participate. The easiest, of course, for you to see the data is MQTT Explorer. The only thing to consider about this is that it doesn't support Sparkplug in terms of decrypting the payload. It's a binary payload, so you won't see it. You'll see it there, and you'll see all the messages coming in. So it certainly is all straight MQTT, but you won't see the actual data within that. But at least you get to see what's coming through. So those are the two ways, Jeff, that we can audience can definitely participate here.
Cool. Hey, thanks, Travis. All right. Hey, let's bring in. I've got. If the audience could see the agenda list that is on the side of my monitor, it's like a 15 different pieces that we have to do today. But we've got the first one done, right? Let's knock off the second one. Hey, check. Todd. Hey, Arlen. Look alive. I'm adding you to the stream. There we go. We're going to catch somebody sleeping when I just throw their camera up at some point. Hey, Todd. Hey, Arlen. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Guys, can you give us the why behind all of this? Like, walk us through some of the business use case and, you know, what has it cost to build the architectures in time and hours and equipment in the past compared to what we're building today?
I'll start off. I mean, I think everybody knows from several other media or webinars that we've had that MQTT literally was invented for Phillips 66 to solve a problem that they were having, to make their TCP/IP VSAT system work better. And then over the years, we've just kind of expanded on that, and to the point where it still was difficult. It was pretty proprietary to the point of IBM had all the brokering technology. But now that we've opened that up and we've got something like Sparkplug, we're getting to this point that Alan mentioned, which is the single source of truth. And ultimately, we want a piece of equipment, whether it's a flow computer or a compressor or a pump or a valve or a heart smart transmitter. They all know what they're doing. They should be able to publish that information, and then we can discover it. Now, from a care and feeding standpoint, I've been doing this for 45 years. And for 45 years, again, to Alan's point, is that we had to go find a discrete register, and we had to say, well, it's an A to D conversion, but it's going to be 0 to 100 somethings, and those somethings are going to be these engineering units. And then we're going to hope that a human being typed all of that in correctly, and they probably were remote. They probably weren't the actual technician that was in the field. And now we're literally taking care of that database 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, every day. And as we help customers migrate, we always find registers that aren't the right value. They haven't been correct since they put the system in. So to me, it's the ability to move the subject matter, the tribal knowledge out to the technicians and the engineers that are at the edge. They're going to do a better job in making sure they've got it correct there, then take that, publish it in, and then automatically discover it. That is an order of magnitude less effort in putting your system together initially, but maintaining it over time.
And I'll take that little step further or deeper into the practicality. From an end user standpoint, what that means to me is whatever the cost is with the normal way, which is how we've done it the last 25 years with poll response. And I'll give you the percentage at the very end of here in the next few seconds. It saves integration time and money, and Arlen said it, removes the possibility of human error. So if you think about it from a systems integration standpoint, when you had your poll response systems like we've done for 25 years, you're creating the PLC object. You're programming the touchscreen visualization. You're programming the HMI visualization and objects behind it. You're dumping it to your process historian, and then I'm assuming you replicate that up through level 3 or 3.5, level 4. The difference is with this, with your Sparkplug PLCs like PLC Next, like Opto 22, you just create that PLC object, and Alan mentioned it, the UDT, you create it, you publish it to the broker, and then all those other things are subscribed to. Let's say you pump, it's a pump. they're subscribed to pumps. Your visual, your touch screen, your HMI, your process historian automatically pulls in that pump. You didn't have to do anything. It showed up in a matter of push the button instead of waiting for all these integrators to integrate those other pieces to get it up into your higher level database system. And the big thing too is, and Travis mentioned this, store and forward is built in. There's no more gaps in our data. So what that boiled down to, I took stopwatch time measurements with experts doing it, 21% of the time it normally took to do all those different pieces of integration, because all you're doing is creating that PLC object. It's the time of that and you're done. So
79% of the time, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
So 5 facilities in the time it used to take you to do 1 facility.
Yes.
Almost 5, yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. That's considerable.
Right.
That's awesome. Guys, I think we should get started. You ready to build some stuff? All right, cool. Audience, are you ready for us to start building some stuff? Todd, I'm going to drop you down. I'll come back to you in a bit. Enjoy the show. Todd gets to sit back and relax now. No stress on Todd. Hey, just real quick, what are we going to build first? Let's start with the brokers, okay? So we're going to go ahead and get the Chariot broker stood up. Arlen, you'll handle that for us. And then Kudzai, we're going to ask, I'm going to bring you in once Arlen's done, and we're going to show the process to what you did to stand up HiveMQ number 2 and stand up HiveMQ number 1. And Travis, you can also show how we're going to replicate, basically as a broker, using Ignition as a broker to replicate Chariot up to HiveMQ 2 for our audience. Sound good?
Sounds
right.
Great.
Arlen, you want to get us started?
All right. So this is the Chariot broker. You can go to Cirrus Link and download Chariot for either Windows or Linux operating systems. What I'm in here is the web UI. This is a 3.1.1 compliant MQTT broker. And from that, we get to go in and we can set up our users that go in and can edit that and give them roles. We can set up our MQTT credentials. And with those credentials, you can tell what topics people can publish on, what they can subscribe on. You can go ahead and set up all of the ports in your server that you want, non-secure 1883, secure 8883. You can upload your TLS certificates, or you can use root CA certificates. However, your organization wants to handle all of the TLS security. Now, what's cool with that is that once you get that up and running, it is Sparkplug aware. So it knows from a Sparkplug standpoint, the number of clients that are connected, and then are they publishing proper messages? We can get alerts to say, okay, we've got a conflicting sequence number. We've got somebody is using MQTT client ID, but they have duplicates. All of the things that we kind of like poke around at what we could do wrong, this broker will tell you about that. So as we bring everybody online here in a little bit, we'll go into the Sparkplug and start looking at, be able to drill down to an edge node. And, for previous testing that we were doing, we literally can go in here and look at the birth certificates. And then we can go look at the actual node birth and be able to basically kind of get some insight into our overall network topology. So that's the setup of the Chariot broker, Jeff.
Now, some of our audience may have seen Chariot in a previous version. This looks quite new, quite different. What release is this?
This is 2.03. We've added a lot more diagnostics. We've added the ability to do bridging now. So you can set up bridging between different brokers if you want to go from, say, one level in your enterprise and have everything bridged up to another level. Again, using an outbound only connection. We've added the alerts. We had a lot of requests for people. A lot of people are using compression in MQTT, and so we added the ability for any or all of your clients we actually have one of the alerts as we look at your compression, and it can tell us that you're actually building, sometimes compression doesn't work as well as you would think it would. And so we can look at the different compression methods and say, actually, your compression algorithm is actually creating larger MQTT messages. So all of those kind of features we've built into the newest release.
Cool. Thanks, Arlen. All right, Kuzai. Hello, sir. How are you? Kuzai with HiveMQ.
Hi, Jeff. Thank you so much. Great. Yeah, so welcome, everybody. So as you may have seen on our architectural diagram, we actually have got two HiveMQ brokers, one of which is the one that you're going to be interacting with, the public-facing broker, and the other one that is internal-facing. So this is kind of an opportunity really here for HiveMQ to show us the two different ways in which you can kind of deploy or sort of provision our brokers. So one of the brokers is a managed instance, right, on HiveMQ Cloud, and then the other one is a self-hosted one on Azure. So I'll just quickly take you through the two different versions of the broker. So what you are currently looking at is the dashboard for the self-hosted broker that's been deployed on Azure. And here I can currently see all of the data. Like I can see there's currently 29 connections, 30 connections, which means there's actually 30 of you who are connected to it right now. And from this dashboard, really, you can kind of see a lot of different things, including the analytics, and kind of get a sense of the health of your MQTT network. And you can also get an API access to this dashboard, right, if you want to integrate it into your own applications. And this is where you also do management of your extensions. If you've got extensions that you've installed in your broker, you can kind of get a dashboard where you see everything, including what messages are being dropped, how many clusters are active, anything really that has to do with the health of your network, you can actually see from this dashboard. So how do you go about doing this? So we've got a template, right? An ARM template that you can get on GitHub. You can simply just click on this button to deploy. It will pull all the resources for you that you need to actually run this on an Azure virtual machine. So if I quickly go to my Azure account here, you can see the resources that have been deployed by that simple act of going through that button. So you can see here I've got a load balancer, and then I've got a node. So for these purposes of this demo, I deployed only one node, but you can actually deploy multiple nodes here to kind of get rid of that single point of failure when your broker goes down. So again, now this is like a deployment on a HiveMQ on Azure virtual machine, but obviously you can do this with things like Kubernetes to kind of host your broker cluster. And the other instance, which is the internal-facing broker, is a managed service, as I mentioned before, which we call HiveMQ Cloud. So this is pretty simple to set up. When you go to the HiveMQ website, you can go to Cloud, and then you'll see here there's an option to try it out for free. But we also have a table here that shows the different versions. So with the free version, you can connect up to 100 devices, and you also get up to 10 gigabytes of data. And then if you need to kind of extend that, you can move on to our pay-as-you-go option, still on the HiveMQ Cloud version. So when you try it out for free, so when you're doing this for the first time, you just go through the steps of setting up your confirming your email address, and then setting up your credentials, and then you'll be able to just get a cluster that is automatically being created for you. So currently we've got this cluster that is one that we're using for our internal demo sessions here, and then you can go into manage cluster. This is where you can then get some more details about your cluster, connection details, access management. This is where you can create access credentials to be able to access this broker, right? And then this is where also you get we recently added this feature actually, where you are then able to manage your integration. So you're now able to actually deploy or activate a Kafka extension on the HiveMQ Cloud broker. So yeah, basically that's how you can stand up two different versions of HiveMQ broker. So over
Great.
to you, Jeff.
Yeah, thanks. Hey, Kuds, a question had come in about if you wanted to, from the admin side, set permissions so that some of your clients could only subscribe to certain topics. I didn't know, within Hive, is there a way to create those rules? Or is it someone either has access to subscribe to everything or nothing?
Yeah, so you could actually do that during configuration. HiveMQ broker allows you to configure a certain client to access certain topics, right? You can do topic restrictions on the HiveMQ configuration interface.
Great. Hey, thanks, Kudzai, and I hope that answers your question, Jack. Awesome. All right, so we need to, just as a review, we've got Kudzai's HiveMQ 1 and 2 set up. We've got Arlen set up now on his Chariot broker. Travis, I need you to show us how we're going to get replicate the data coming off Chariot up to HiveMQ number 2, please.
We can do that. All right, so I basically have an Ignition server that's on the enterprise level here. And there's two pieces to that. So we have, within Ignition, there's two different modules, one that's subscribing to data and one that is publishing data. So the engine module is what's going to be connected to those two brokers, right? The Chariot broker and to that HiveMQ cluster broker. So the Ranger will be coming into this one, and then all the other edge devices will be coming into this one. We'll see that here soon. So I'm connected to both of those. But then I'm also connected on the outbound side, we call the transmission side. I'm connected to that HiveMQ public broker. So that one that we share with everybody that you guys can go and connect to and see. And so basically, all data coming in from the engine side will then be retransmitted over to that public broker. We could have done that through Chariot has a bridging mode as well, but we want to kind of show you how clear it is in terms of how the same data can be flowing to multiple different places. So that's how that's working. And as we go along, once we automatically discover all that data, we'll press the refresh button to retransmit all of that to that public broker, so then all of you guys can actually see that data.
Awesome. All right. Kudzai, let's bring Jens in from your team. Jens, I got you in here somewhere. There you are. How are you, sir?
Thank you.
All right. So, Jens, can you give us some type of report on, do we have all three properly connected to each other?
Yes, we'll do. So to do that, I will use a tool which I created, which is called MQTT-FX. With MQTT-FX, first of all, you can create different connection profiles. So that gives me the option now to choose which broker I would like to connect to and to give it a try. And after connection, you are able to, for instance, either publish messages or subscribe for messages. And there's a specific Sparkplug specific feature which is called Sparkplug Explorer, which will give you an overview about all the Sparkplug traffic that passes through the broker. There's a new feature that is called Sparkplug Editor, which allows you to create virtual Sparkplug devices, edge of network nodes, having several different pre-configured payloads containing metrics, and metrics can have properties and all that stuff. And you can model your Sparkplug messages with this, and of course also obviously publish Sparkplug messages from here, or preview the payload, which is automatically encoded and decoded to give it a try if everything is working well on your configuration. And there is another feature. There's a scripting engine. There's a specific broker status tab for a broker who support these $sys topic stuff. And there is also a log window here. So let's give it a try. So first I connect to the Chariot Plugfest broker. And there you go. So the green indicator here indicates that we are connected to that broker. It's an encrypted connection, and it's using MQTT 3. And I will give it a try to connect to the HiveMQ broker number 1. We are connected here, and I'm going also connect to the cloud broker. See. Should be fine, right? Oh.
This is why we've got you, Jens.
Let me give it
All
a
right, so
try
which one
here.
is that? Is that number 1 or number 2 that we're looking at?
That should be number 2. So the public cloud broker.
All right, Jens and Kudzai, will you work on that? I'll let you guys go offline and work on that. It could just be maybe credentials, because I think someone in our audience has already said that they were able to connect. Who did I see? Renee? Can you confirm for me in the audience, Renee, that you're still connected and seeing it? That might isolate it down to being credentials on Jens's side.
Well, I believe that one is the HiveMQ cloud broker, which is not the one that we've given audience access to.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Travis.
Okay.
So I connected to it on my end over here. So possibly a password issue.
Okay. Let's do this. Jens
So
and Kudzai.
I will figure it out.
Yeah, and hey, Jens, thanks for creating MQTT-FX. I didn't realize you were the creator, and
yeah, you're welcome.
that tool has saved us so many times. Appreciate that.
Just to mention, there is a free available cloud edition, which is specific. It's limited to connect just to HiveMQ Cloud, but it's completely free available for everyone, and could be loaded from the Softblade page here. So softblade.de, and their Windows and the Mac version is available here.
Yeah, and I'll mention that we only specify, or we only showed MQTT Explorer in terms of that because the public broker that the audience can connect to is not a HiveMQ Cloud one. It was the one that was deployed to the Azure instance, as Kudzai showed. But MQTT-FX with one here is really great because it has that Sparkplug support already in it. So I just wanted to make another plug there for it.
Right.
Thanks. All right, let's come back to you, Jens. Just message me once you've got good connectivity, okay?
Yeah, will do.
Thank you, sir. All right, because I will come back to you in a bit as well. Thank you, sir. Okay, while they're working through that, and Alan, we've got to move down to the site and start working on adding our I guess starting with our PLCs on the control network.
Yep.
Or actually, I guess, you know what, let's do this. Let's get Sean over at Canary to go ahead and subscribe to the Chariot broker first, just to get history started. That way, as devices are coming on, we'll have history for it. Sean, welcome, sir.
Hey, Jeff, thank you very much.
Let's show us what we would do with Canary to set up the MQTT collector.
Absolutely. So I'm already into my MQTT collector, and I've already got some configuration here to connect to the Chariot broker, and I'm going to be sending that data once everyone starts publishing to my Chariot data set and my historian. But I'll just go ahead here back to where I can go ahead and enable that subscription. So you can see I'm now connected, and looks like there's over 31,000 tags available. And based on my configuration, I have subscribed to a portion of those. It might take a second to start logging those.
Well, Sean, I believe what you're seeing there is history from when you had previously discovered tags, when the Chariot broker was getting load tested. If you, I think you just need to, why don't you disable delete your tag list, and it should be clearing 0 right now.
That's an excellent point, Jeff. Let's go ahead.
So Canary's, for those of you who don't know, I have a little bit of a background on Canary. We got to use the tool pretty heavily for about 6 years. And so what happens is once a tag list is built inside of Canary, it's stored in memory. So the reason Sean was showing they had all those tags was in testing the other day. We had loaded up, I think, 30-some thousand tags on that broker. And now I bet if you go into status and start it out, Sean, let's see what you got.
Let's try that again here.
Hey, look at there. So we're connected, and
there
hey, no tags are there right now. Cool.
That looks a little better.
All right, Sean, stand by, and we're going to come back as we start plugging things in and seeing those tags arrive in your system as well, okay?
Thank you.
Thanks, buddy. All right, who's up first? Let's bring in Benson. Benson, where are you, buddy? I've got you in my list somewhere. There he is.
Hey, Benson.
All right, Benson.
Howdy, everybody.
Hey, you know what has 2 butts and kills people? An assassin.
So you know, Mr. Spock, he has pointed ears, right?
Mm-hmm.
What about Mr. Scott? What does he have?
I don't know.
Engineers.
Like it.
Got the pleasantries out of the way. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and thanks IntegrateLive for asking Opto 22 to participate in this Plug Fest. We've been working with Sparkplug for many, many years. And so what I have here on the screen is a live video feed of a device. In this case, it's a Groov Epic, and it indeed has Sparkplug capabilities in a myriad of ways, of which I'll describe in a moment. But really quickly, this device, it looks like a PLC, but it's much more than that. It's a gateway, an HMI, a control program. Does a lot of different features, a lot of different softwares loaded on this, including Ignition Edge, which we'll talk about in a moment. This thing is actually running a little turbine here. So through the IO modules, I'm connected to stack lights, to the turbine. I'm connected to a touchscreen HDMI monitor to the device for local operator interface. But I've also got another network port here that is going out to a couple of PLCs. In this case, we've got a Siemens PLC and an Allen Bradley PLC there on its own segmented private network. So I'm going to show you how we're going to take all the tags from the control strategy plus all the tags from these non-Sparkplug B legacy PLCs on a private network, which incidentally don't have any security. So we want to protect those. We're going to pull them all in. We're going to publish them out over this other Ethernet cable through a valid gateway and get it on its way. Now, one of the questions in the comments was about Class 1 Div 2 devices. This indeed is a Class 1 Div 2 device, minus 20 to 70 degrees C, UL listed, the whole 9 yards. So it's designed to live at the edge in challenging applications and challenging environments and so on. And it's lots of different power supplies and so on, however you decide to deploy that. So now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to switch my screen over, and I'm going to actually log into this device. Now, this device is secure from the outset. The only way to gain access to it, I happen to be on the same local network. So the only way to access it is to log in. So I'll go ahead and do that. And I come into the user page, which is Groov Manage. It's kind of the home page for the controller. Now, there's a lot going on here. As I said, there's a lot of software running on this device. So we're going to keep it very focused on what it is we're trying to accomplish here. The first is the control.
True, Benson, but
Yes,
I do want to point out that you logged in using a kind of a standalone username and password, but you can use LDAP to log into your device.
Yes, absolutely. So from an authentication perspective, We have local user accounts and we have LDAP accounts. So if you want to manage who has access to this epic from a Active Directory, that's certainly supported as well. So the first thing is let's talk about the controller, the control strategy that's running inside the epic. This particular PLC, if you will, has two choices of control program, CodeSys, or our own pack control, which we've had for 30 years. It's a flowchart-based programming language. I have that running now that's operating this turbine. And I can see that it's running, and I have so many charts that are running there. Now, the trick here is how do you make those certain tags available to other applications, either MQTT or a number of other data service options we have. For that, I'm going to actually open up the flowchart-based programming language, pack control. It's free, and like I said, we've had it for about 30 years. And in there, I've got all my local I/O. I've got all my variables, my string variables, my tables, and so on. And on each of these, I have an option to make it public, and if I choose, allow write capability back to it from some other public interface. Public interfaces include MQTT, RESTful APIs, and OPC UA. So for each of the tags that I want to expose, I simply check that box in the control strategy. It gets downloaded to the controller and is run, and now I have access to all those tags. So while that is running, we're going to come back to here. And in generally speaking, a lot of our customers will use our native Sparkplug B interface that's in here under data service. And there I can see, OPC UA, MQTT, and there indeed is my MQTT Sparkplug B configuration. And again, it's just kind of fill out the blanks, kind of like what we've seen with some of the other applications, even up at the software side or the subscriber side. I've got my group ID, my edge node ID, and my device ID, and I have a given broker. But you'll see this broker here is tied to a HiveMQ cloud. It's our own HiveMQ cloud because this particular demo, this one you see here, is part of a live demo that's been working for years. And so I didn't want to disrupt that. I wanted to keep that running, but still participate in this PlugFest. So I will actually use a different MQTT Sparkplug B client. And in that case, I'll use Ignition. As Travis mentioned, Ignition is pre-installed, already ready to go on the Epic. I have it running now. It is running Ignition Edge. I could run full Ignition as well. I'll go ahead and open it up, and there I'm logged into the gateway interface. Well, actually, I may not be logged. Oh, yep, I need to log in. Everything is secure. You'll see the padlock up here. We'll go ahead and continue. And there's a couple of settings in here. First of all, I need to get all the tags from Ignition. I need to pull all the tags in from my pack control strategy, but I also want to get all the tags from the Allen Bradley and Siemens controllers. So I come down here to device connections. The beauty of Ignition Edge is it in the IIoT edition, it includes two primary capabilities. Number one, that Sparkplug B client, which is MQTT transmission, but number two is all kinds of different drivers to talk to other devices. And in this case, I do have my Allen Bradley PLC here and my Siemens PLC, and of course my own pack control strategy. So now I'm pulling in a lot of different information right into the tag provider within the Ignition platform. And it should be noted as well as these PLCs are on their own network, right? And then the pack control strategy is local to the device. Now, once that's set up, the beauty of the drivers, they just go and scan all the tags. So indeed, we are using pull response here, but at the edge. We're pulling those PLCs, pulling the data in, and protecting those PLCs. Then we're going to publish or democratize that data all the way up. And to do that, we're going to use MQTT transmission. MQTT transmission is a Sparkplug B client. There I can see I have it enabled because indeed I am publishing to other brokers. So if I go over here to servers, which is those brokers, I've got my HiveMQ cloud, I've got the PlugFest Chariot, and then I've got some other places that I'm sending this data. And that's kind of cool because it means that I can publish data out to many different endpoints for consumption in different types of applications if I choose to do so. In this case, my PlugFest Chariot is not enabled yet. So I'm leaving that disabled because I want to quickly show you the transmitters. This is where we get to define which tags we want to send to which brokers. So in this case, I indeed set up an IntegrateLive PlugFest transmitter. And I do have the history store set up so I can store and forward. And that's already configured. And how did I configure those tags? Well, for that, we use Ignition Designer. And Ignition Designer is right here. Now, this again is coming right out of the Epic. Everything I'm showing you is software running on the Epic, not on another PC or anything like that. So I simply created another folder, and we all decided on a topic namespace. So Initech Energy, I will always be West. So as you guys start seeing that data flow into your MQTT Explorer or MQTT-FX, if it says West, it's coming from California here. There I've got my wind turbine. I've actually got 3 turbines here, and they're all set up. And then I've got my PLCs. So there's my Compact Logic and my Siemens PLC. And I'm indeed getting live data flowing into the Ignition Edge on the Epic. And you can see here with these little icons, I'm actually historizing that data locally should I lose a connection back up to the broker. Okay, so that's pretty much how that's configured. I simply put it in the right folder. I set up my transmitter back here on the other side, and that's simply pulling that data from that particular folder. No big deal. Now what I'm going to do is actually start things up. Okay, so we saw that I'm not publishing any data yet, so I want to go ahead and start that. So I'm going to click over here to server.
Before we do that, Benson, real quick, I think it might be useful here, Jeff, real quick to show my screen.
Okay, sure.
So, because on the application side, on the central side, right? So Benson's clearly at the edge here, talking to those devices. I am connected to the same broker. So if I come into our on the engine side here, I'm connected to the same Chariot broker and the HiveMQ cluster. So we are in fact connected. But if I look at the architecture, I don't have any devices. There are no devices. There are no nodes. There's nothing coming through from these connections. So it's just want to kind of show that we're a blank slate up here. And the beauty of all of this is that once Benson just simply presses and enables it and has that data transmitted, I should see that automatically up here. And then we're going to see the public see that data as well through that HiveMQ broker that you guys can participate with. So just want to kind of lay that land real quick before you went in and enabled it, just so that people can really see this data flowing through.
Okay, so Groove Epic through the firewall to Chariot, Chariot down to the Ignition broker, which is what Travis just showed, up through the firewall to HiveMQ number 2. And our audience that's connected, you ready for the show? All right, Benson, coming back to you.
Okay, I'm back at my same screen. There's my PlugFest Chariot broker. I'm going to go ahead and click on Edit, and then I'm going to enable MQTT server connection. At this point, I'll come down and save it. And just note that those, that configuration is the same as anybody else entered in. I've got the Chariot broker. I've got my username and password. I am TLS encrypted, and I click Save Changes. Now what's going to happen is Ignition Edge is now taking all of those tags, identifying that I'm going to connect to that broker, grab the tags out of that folder, and start publishing those all that data on change. So I haven't started the turbine yet, so I'm going to switch back over to here and just reach over to my local HMI, start my turbine. And by the way, you can actually integrate, interact with this. There's some credentials on IntegrateLive.com for accessing this particular demo, so you can start and stop the turbine yourself. But in this case, I am now publishing data. Let's see. Travis, am I publishing data?
All right, let's come back over and take a look. I didn't do anything, I promise, and there's a green box here. So that is the Initech Energy West Site 1 that he is publishing up on. And so if I look at the actual tags that are coming in, we'll go here, West Site 1, we'll go to Wind, Turbine 1, and in fact, that power is going on. You want to turn that off again, Benson, and we'll
Sure.
see that go down. All right, so now we're at 0 kW on there. So that's all. That's the beauty of all this. Now I haven't retransmitted this to the HiveMQ public. Let's just do that real quick so you guys can start seeing this as well. So I'll just click a refresh button that basically takes all those tags that are in Ignition on the transmission side, and we are now publishing that to that cloud broker. So we should start seeing, and I have the MQTT Explorer here. There is the site one, and there's data coming through. Again, this is not, in terms of the payload, not Sparkplug aware. Maybe we can have, Jen, so we can see that data coming through, but it is in fact coming through on both ends now.
Okay. I also like to just say one thing before we move off of the Opto piece. If you have a brownfield environment and you're struggling to figure out, well, how do I use MQTT because I don't have that capability at my PLCs, right? He just showed you how you do it. You can buy just a processor, put it into a panel. It has 2 segmented IP networks. You can tie your untrusted network to one side and your IT network to the other. And now what you have is you have your legacy PLC local to your PLC panel being published out from the PLC panel, outbound only, encrypted, TLS protected. And then on top of that, that little box that he has on his desk there has a HDMI and a USB. And now you can also drive your touch panel on that local panel. So just thinking about the big picture and how you can start to get into MQTT and really start taking advantage of this, there's a path for you.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Alan, because we actually do have quite a few customers that are doing just what you said. They don't necessarily need PLC capability. They need all the gateway and MQTT and modeling and all the other kind of tools that are available on the Epic. So they purchase, the Epic processor on what we call a chassis 0, meaning there's no I/O channels on there, and it's a full-fledged, secure, industrial, robust gateway that can live on the edge or anywhere on the plant floor.
Cool. Hey, Sean, show us the history if you don't mind.
Yeah, so got some good news. We got our 14 subscribe tags coming from Benson. Logging those in. I can see those. They showed up on my list here on the collector side, but if I just jump over to my historian here, I had set that configuration to right to my Chariot data set. And here's my first file in that data set for today. And there are those 14 tags. So I can just pick on, say, my power tag here coming from that Site 1 wind turbine 1. And there's all my updates.
Awesome. Thanks, Sean. Come back to you here after we bring in a few more.
Awesome.
All right. Vincent,
somebody just started the turbine.
Somebody found the credentials on IntegrateLive.com.
Yep.
That's great. Hey, let's bring in some more legacy equipment. Vince, I'm going to drop you down for a second. I'll come back to you. And there goes Benson. Where is Dawid? Dawid, you're in my list here somewhere. There you are. And coming in and off of mute. There's Dawid. Dawid, you're with Software Toolbox. Welcome. Tell us about DataHub. What are you showing us?
Good day, everyone. Thank you, Jeff and Alan, for being invited to the session to show how we play with the rest. So yes, what we're trying to do on the control network is similar to what Benson is using, a hardware-based gateway to convert legacy devices through his Epic. We just have a software-based gateway to look at devices, but also protocols for that matter. So for the purpose of this exercise, what we're really going to try and do is utilize DataHub, which is a product that we as Software Toolbox represent, and it's developed by a partner of ourselves called Skynet, to configure that and very easily go to a legacy classic OPC DA server, bring in those tags, and basically republish those tags to the Chariot broker like we've seen. So I hope that puts it in context, and I'd like to show you guys how easy it is to actually configure that.
Cool. Hey, I lost your presentation, so if you don't mind
representing
your screen.
Up and running in a second.
All right, thank you.
Let me just select the correct screen, and there we go. So I should click the share button, and you should be able to see it.
Thank you, sir.
Right. So if I focus my attention here, just to first of all show where we're getting the data from, is that I've just spun up one of our products called Top Server, and I'm just running a little bit of simulated data. So I've created a bit of a structure. I'm using some random features, and I try to make it as accurate as possible. And then we have the old trusty quick client, which is connecting via OPC DA to just show you that these tags are running like a dream. So we then have this product called DataHub for that matter. And I've not configured anything inside DataHub today. So this is a real green run dry. So the first thing we have to do is obviously connect DataHub to the OPC server in order to bring those tags in. So that's as easy as saying, look, we're going to add an OPC server. For naming convention purposes, I'm going to call it top server. It's sitting on my local machine. So let's just quickly browse the local machine. I select my top server, and I've got a default domain name, which I just want these tags to actually reside in. And I say OK, and the magical apply button. And by doing that, I should, if everything goes according to plan, go to my top server, go to my OPC DA server, which has been configured, and I can see the live values now inside the DataHub environment. So now with DataHub being a conversion tool and much more, we're just using the converting component at the moment. The objective is to take DA from an OPC perspective, all your legacy DA devices and servers, and publish it out to the Chariot broker. So in order to do that, we will not be using our broker functionality today because that's been replicated or used from a Chariot perspective, but we'll go to the MQTT client component. And I'm going to add a new client connection. So this is a couple of steps we have to follow. So the first thing we select is, look, we can publish to standard cloud providers, but obviously this is a Sparkplug fest, so we want to do Sparkplug. Secondly, we are a edge of network device. And like Benson has indicated in a second ago, we are calling ourselves Initech Energy, which is our group name, and ourselves are actually publishing from East because we're sitting in North Carolina and in Virginia for that matter. We have the ability to just make our tag names look beautiful. So I just want to go one level deeper in order to start reading the tag name from that perspective. From a label perspective, I'm going to purely just say OPCDA to MQTT, just to make it, let's put the word Chariot in there also, just to make it really explanatory. And we know, for example, that we are publishing to the following address, IO, and it is secure port 8883. We have a username and a password. Don't worry, Alan, I won't give your password away. So we have that, and I've written it down here. Let me just punch in this long password.
I like that, Dawood, you're tempting the fates by typing in the hidden password.
Well, so I'm going to do it again, just because you spoke. And if it doesn't work, we know it's a password. And then it's as easy as saying, well, these are the available points that's inside DataHub, which we've just configured from an OPCDA perspective. So if I go to my top server default or group that we've created, I go to my OPCDA server group, I go to site 1, I've got my 6 tags, which I'd like to get onto that DMZ broker. So if I say OK, and I say apply, it looks cool, it says it's running. And I need
Travis,
to
you're seeing it already?
Ask anyone on that side to see, can you see my data or not?
All right, Travis, coming over to you. What do you got?
Look, I got 2 green boxes now. How exciting. And so we got the west and we've got the east. So there's the east connected, get some metrics on that, like the data message count. You see the message count's going up. So that's some good news. It means data's coming in. Let's go over here to our little dashboard. So we're going to go east, site 1, and there we go. Boom. There's the tags that you just put in. So now we'll do the same thing. Let's retransmit that once more. And now everybody out there, we got 2 of 2 now being retransmitted to the HiveMQ public broker there. You should be seeing these tags now.
Yeah, so like I did with Benson, I just want to point out a couple different unique things that you just saw, right? One, you saw a piece of software be able to connect to, and if you're familiar with Kepware and Top Server, you can connect anything. But then once you've connected to it, you now just easily, through a few clicks, converted that to Sparkplug B. If you need, you can go and you can actually do the broker piece for you also. So incredibly powerful piece of software, and excited to see where it's going to head and how we can better leverage it in the industry, because it is unknown and it should be known.
Yeah, and that's Alan and I are excited to relay to the audience. We're going to be featuring a lot of more info on DataHub in upcoming episodes. Get ready, David. You're going to be a regular on here.
Perfect. Thank you, Jeff and Alan, and thanks, guys, for
great job.
allowing us to play nicely in the ecosystem.
All right, thanks, David.
Thank you.
All right, guys. We're checking off boxes. I've got PLC Next up on my list.
Why don't you bring up the architecture? Let's look at it again, see what we got connected so far.
All right, thanks, Alan. Bottom is complete. We'll save the virtual PLCs for later. Arlen's going to give us a whole bunch of tags to be looking at towards the end, but I think we've got PLC Next and then Ranger on the list, Alan.
Okay.
All right. Hey, Jake, I'm bringing you in, bud. Let's get Jake from Phoenix Contact showing us PLC Next today. Welcome, Jake. Got you on mute right now. If you unmute, I got you there, bud.
So, all right, there we go. All right, sorry about that. Hey, guys, how you doing? Wondered, am I only showing my browser, I guess?
You're showing the Edge Gateway currently.
Yeah, okay, I just see the browser, because I made a little diagram here to help make things, to understand things a little bit better, but I guess I'll just talk my way through the diagram instead. Just so you understand kind of where we fit in this whole picture. What you're looking at right now is a PLC Next Edge Gateway. It's an application, and this application is installable on our PLC Next devices right now. But we did containerize it, so it will be usable on anything, but soon. But right now we're just focused on the PLC Next device. I have it installed on a XE2152. And what happens when you install our application on one of our controllers is it sits right next to the PLC Next runtime. And then we also tap into the runtime via REST API or like a shared global data space as well. So we could interact with basically our PLC Next runtime and do things like take OPC UA data or Profinet data and push it through our app into the cloud, for example. So I guess what we're going to do now is show you that connection. We're going to focus, again, there's a lot of stuff in here, but we're going to focus on Sparkplug. So I'm going to come down here and add a driver. So after you install this, you would come to here and just go to Edge/Edge, the device's IP address, and you'd be presented with this UI. All right, so by default, the Sparkplug connection connects to our test server, and if you followed the links there, you could actually test your Sparkplug connection in our demonstration cloud. We have a paid copy of Ignition there, and yeah, you can test your Sparkplug connection on our device for free in the cloud if you followed that link, but that's a topic for another day. All right, so we just fill out our creds here and connect, and we're connected. Oh, well, I didn't want to do this, but I already had this data in here. So if you actually went into our, it was from a previous when we were doing our test runs, and I forgot to go in and actually delete the local file. So on our device, everything gets backed up locally as well as stored in memory, local memory. So if the powers are set on the device, everything is retained. So yeah, but it's as simple as that, making that Sparkplug connection. And yeah, so like
Jake, if you were browsing for a metric, yeah, let's just
sure, yeah, exactly. So the next thing I was going to show is since these all came up here, I'm just going to add in another set of inverters here, I guess. If this probably wouldn't be such a bad idea. Just so you guys can see that action. But you could also see the power of, I'm not connected to the backend now, but you could just say drop an entire data set in here and then just connect your Sparkplug connection and it'll build out this entire chunk of data like you saw. All right, so I got my tag names here off screen that you couldn't see, but so we're going to do this. Let's just grab something. So I guess when we first started out, you saw some metrics there flopping around on the screen. So I just had created some stuff through our own metric system, which allows us to say take data, source data, scale it, multiply it, all just configurable. Run it against different kind of formulas that the user created, all configurable. Yep, so it's easy as that. Just adding in another piece of data, and there we go. There's our fourth guy there.
There we go.
And then let's just, this box, I have it that it stays open. So you could just rapidly kind of add device or add points in. As easy as that. And now I'm just selecting data points on the system. Like I said, these are all data points that I had created through our metric system.
All right, and Travis, are you seeing data coming through?
I sure am. I am seeing data coming through.
All right, let's see. So what? 1 second, Jake. I'm going to throw over on Travis's screen. We should have 3 points now. Hey, 3 points.
We got 3, and we got the message count is increasing here as we go. So if we go look at the actual tags that are discovered, here's that south site 1, and in there, there's solar and inverter 4, and there are the 3 tags so far that have been published up: active power, DC power, and frequency.
Awesome.
So I'll retransmit again, so that way everybody else can see those out there too. We should have 3 of 3 now.
Yeah. So Jeff, wanted to also mention that next month we are going to be working, and during our workshop, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using Phoenix Contact and Software Toolbox to send data from a PLC directly to SAP, and potentially get a work order not generated automatically. So we have a lot of technical things we got to work out, but the goal is that we're going to show a PLC dynamically sending a message to SAP, creating a PM, and also we can respond back to that PLC. It's going to be amazing. I'm excited to have Jake and David work with us.
No rehearsals, 0 rehearsals, no dry runs, just completely live. We'll just see if it works.
Well, yeah, we could do that. We won't, but we could.
I'd be down to try it, because I'm like, my gears are turning in my head right now, and I'm just thinking about the just like how we could show on here already, just like adding a tag in, tapping into the API and starting to pull data in through the PLC, and then just pulling up the PLC next runtime, creating an OPC UA tag or something like that. And then
it's going to be amazing.
OPC UA data straight to wherever, right?
Yep.
And then whoever receives it on the other end could do whatever they need to, and they'll complete the rest of the picture. I mean, it's,
well, what are our dates on that, Alan? What are we planning for? It's back-to-back Wednesdays in February. I think it's the last 2 Wednesdays of February. We'll get to the community. We'll get the information out to you here shortly on that. Jake, I'm booting you, man. Thanks for.
Okay, yeah, no problem.
Great job.
I really appreciate it.
Bye. All right, Jens, where are we at on our? Was it just credentials? Is that all it was?
Yes, it looks like so. After I was put into the background, it connected. So,
All right,
so
we kicked him out.
currently I have two connections. One is to the broker 2, so the not public broker, and I have here the cloud edition connected to the public broker. But I think currently no data is published to there, right?
Right. We're getting ready to do that.
Having a look at the Sparkplug Explorer here, you can see there's frequently there are frequently updated DData messages. There are also the other nodes containing the birth and messages for the nodes and for the devices. Yeah. Okay. Oh, data is flowing.
Let's get some data over to the cloud HiveMQ instance. Thank you, Jens. And I'm going to drop your screen out. Let's bring in Josh from SignalFire. If everybody remembers, Josh is sitting out there outside of the control network with his Ranger. Josh, tell us a little bit about the Ranger and show us how you're going to connect up to HiveMQ Cloud for us, please.
Sure. Yep. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. I was going to tell a joke about time travel to start, but none of you liked it. All right. So, yeah, so it kind of on that diagram, the Ranger's up by itself. So it's the Lone Ranger. It's an edge device. It's self-contained, battery-powered LTE-M or NB-IoT networks. So it's class 1 Div 2 rated, IP67 housing. So it's designed to be installed outdoors, typically on a remote asset that may not be part of the control network, maybe outside the gate or distributed things that are out in the field. We have a number of different inputs on it. It has analog 4 to 20, 1 to 5 volt inputs, discrete digitals. We can do flow totals. Also have daughter cards. We can interface with Modbus devices over RS-45, pull in heart variables for heart instrumentation. We have a SDI-12 for some environmental sensors, as well as an RTD input for temperature monitoring. So today I'm just going to plug in batteries. This is, again, self-contained battery. We do have some DC power or solar options depending on the sensor requirements. So the Ranger will also apply power to the sensor, take the readings, and then publishes it all over the cellular networks using MQTT Sparkplug. So, so just have a little simulator card plugging in. And on my screen, I'm showing our configuration software. So connected over the USB port. I'll open that connection, and this will show, children connected. We're on the Verizon network currently, and I've already configured previously the broker credentials on the MQTT tab here. So it's already, since I've plugged in the battery, it's already connected to the cellular network and connected to the broker, and it's should have started to publish already. On the Sparkplug, we're this Intech Energy. We're north. I'm in Massachusetts, so at the north site here. And then the only other configuration that we've done is on the analog input. I've defined the units and the scaling. So we're simulating coming in from 3 analog inputs. We have wind speed, and then on this tab we have degrees Fahrenheit and POA on the solar array. So we're simulating those 3 data points. Then on the right-hand side here, this is the list of all of the MQTT Sparkplug tags that it's publishing. So you can see this AN1 is publishing miles per hour, 22 miles an hour. If you hover over, it'll show the tag path that it's using. And the Ranger, even on battery on the cellular networks, it's full 2-way capable. So you can publish to it to change any of the settings and parameters remotely. It has a relay, so you can do some simple control if you want to turn a pump or something on or off. And it also has full, like we talked about Sparkplug, it'll backlog data internally if it is offline, and push that timestamp data to the broker once it's reestablished connection.
All right.
So Travis, you seen it?
See it?
I sure am. seeing it. So we can come back and take a quick look.
All right.
So let me get that over there. All right, so we got north. So it looks like we got north, south, east, west now. All of those. There's our Dev A2 going over here. I could look at north, and you get the a lot of diagnostics. The battery there, the temperature. We can go into Dev A2, seeing the different analog inputs and discrete inputs. This is the right folder to look at there, Josh. Yes. These ones. Yeah.
Yep. That's two of the analog channels. Yep.
Yeah, because there's also Dev 1, a bunch of stuff coming in there as well.
Yeah. So the way we sort of segregated is that the Dev 1 is the onboard I/O, and the Dev 2 is the expansion cards. So this one has an extra analog expansion card, so a couple of channels are coming in on that second device.
So we get all of that information. Everything's coming through plus some. Pretty awesome.
So at this point, I feel like we've got the site and the control network and our remote assets out in the field, not inside the network, covered, right? We've got everything pushing up through Chariot and pushing up to HiveMQ. Sean, you should have absolutely everything in Canary. Is that accurate? Let me bring you in. Thank you, Josh. Where is Sean in my list? There he is. Sean, you got everything?
Well, I have most everything. I have everything up till we got into the Ranger data. Connected, not getting any tags there through the HiveMQ. So now it just took some time. Okay.
There they are. It just took a second to pick them up. All right. So all you had to do was enable your session for HiveMQ Ranger, right? And then
that's right.
And they came.
Just hit the enable button, bringing in those tags, and if I hop over to my historian here, here I have my 23 tags plus the ones coming from Ranger. So, again, all the tags that we were collecting earlier from everybody, along with my Ranger data set. And,
cool.
So there's those tags coming in.
Awesome. All right. So thanks, Sean. If we look back then, it is time to move to
Jeff, I have one quick thing to point out that from the edge side, if you don't mind, is the UDTs or the data modeling of a Sparkplug. I want to point it out real quick because we're going to show some more examples as Arlen's going to publish some more data, but if you wouldn't mind bringing it back over my screen just for a sec, it'll be quick. So I've got Ignition Edge as well, much like Benson showed on the Opto 22 device. I've got Ignition Edge here, and I haven't. It's not enabled right now, but basically, if I look at the designer, I've got some tags in here, and you'll see that I built some UDTs. These are data models. So I've got a tower and a compressor, and I have those represented in the tags that we want to publish up. So what's beautiful about Sparkplug is that we not only are we publishing all these different metrics, these different tags up, but if we have data models that we've defined, whether it's an Ignition or whether it's any Sparkplug compatible device that supports this, those models are that context is being pushed up along with that data, and it's discovered that way. So if I simply come in here now and enable this one, we have 4 edge devices. This will be another one that's publishing up, so I'll get 5 edge devices. There we go. And if I come and look, and this is the designer for the top side under edge nodes, Intertech, there's IA, Site 1, refrigeration, and then look, we got UDTs again because that context was being published. And so if I go over here, I got UDT definitions of which the tower and that compressor were a part of it. So I wanted to point that out because then now, of course, with Canary, you would get, in the historian side, they would get the data with models as well. I mean, anybody can see that model and that asset. And that's really important for things like digital twins going into, we showed before, going to AWS SiteWise or Azure Digital Twin. Having the data with its context is really, really vital. And Sparkplug makes it incredibly easy to do it at the edge. That single source of truth throughout the entire infrastructure, you get everything you need. And that's why, Arlen talks about this all the time. It's why let the people at the edge, let the people have the domain knowledge, build those objects that can then be delivered everywhere. So I want to make that point, hit it home because it's a really powerful part of Sparkplug.
Hey, thanks, Travis. All right. Hey guys, let's come up to our enterprise application now. We've just already seen that what we've got going on with Canary. So Canary's historizing everything. We're going to come back to Canary in a bit, and they're going to show, Sean's going to show us some other things that he can do with the data. Travis, you've been showing us Ignition and the UDTs. You're already pushing up the Hive for our audience. Where is my buddy Lenny? Lenny with Flow. Hello, Mr. Smith. How are you?
Hi, Jeff. Thanks again for IntegrateLive to make Flow software part of this as well. Yeah, so let's think about where Flow fits into this picture. So you see Flow there kind of connecting to Canary. You also see Flow connecting to the Cirrus Link Chariot broker as well as HiveMQ. Now, if you think about what we've been doing up until now, we've been sending some solar data, right? We've got our inverters, we're pushing down some AC current and some DC current. But what if we want to create like KPIs to just say, hey, what is the efficiency of that inverter? So what if we want to look a little bit about analytics and create a little bit of an analytics framework and make that analytics framework part of the namespace as well, but based on historical data that we now can get from our Canary historian, and to really create KPIs based on that information as well. That's pretty much what I've done from a Flow perspective. So I'm going to go and share my screen here. And there we go.
Hey, Alan, I just got a phone call from my bank. It's not often your bank calls to give you a compliment. It said my balance is outstanding.
Yeah. Jeff, you know what? You know what's made of leather and sounds like a sneeze?
No.
A shoe.
Hey, Lenny, why don't you go ahead and walk us through what you've got?
You guys on a roll. All right,
a shoe. A shoe.
I heard it. I heard that one.
All right, so the principle of Flow is that we create a model, a KPI model. Travis talked a lot about having this concept of a model and adding as much of context to that model as possibly. We do exactly the same. So we'll have a nice model. You can see I've created a model here based on my inverter assets. Things that we do a little bit differently is we create time buckets. So we will create a KPI that say, what is the hourly efficiency of my inverter? Or what was the hourly active power delivered by that inverter? What is the power for the day? It sounds silly, but a day might mean a whole bunch of different things to different people, depending on what industry they are. It might be from 6 to 6 in the morning. It might be midnight to midnight. So we create these different time buckets and we slot in these different KPIs based on that. Now we can have sources of data coming into Flow. Obviously, we need that historical data to create these KPIs. So you can see here I am connected to my Canary historian, and we can see the historical data that's coming from there. But I also have the capability to buffer a little bit of Sparkplug data, right? I need historical data to perform my KPIs. So I do have the capability here to connect to the public Hive broker as well. And I can go and subscribe to the Sparkplug protocol. I'm looking at my Anytech Energy group. And what this will allow me to do is just to buffer enough data so that I can actually get the data into my time buckets to go and do that as well. So if I'm going to look at that quickly, I can see that I've been, connecting to that. And as we've been connected to the data, we can see that there we go. All the different groups are getting to fill in. I've got a little bit of diagnostics here, so I can go and see the tags. So as everybody went and configured and get things are ongoing, we can see how the tag count that I'm buffering is increasing slowly. So we're currently sitting at 53 tags on that public broker, and I can now use that to create my KPIs. Very importantly, the data that I'm getting from Canary, I am not replicating that data. It stays in source, which is in that Canary historian. Secondly, I need to be able to publish this out, right? So the KPI that I've created, I need to be able to push that out. We call that a consumer. That's another piece of software that would like to get the data from Flow. And again, I'm pushing out to the Chariot broker here. So I've set up that connection here. It is through the secure one. We are using the TLS support. And I can just hit a test there to see if I've got a good connection to that Chariot broker. So that is all good. Now I've created these KPIs. I've created one for the east side, and I can see what is my hourly KPI. It started off very slow this morning. The inverter was only 49% effective. It's getting a little bit better from here. But I've got different sites available now, right? I've got the north side, the south side, the west side. So let's quickly instantiate some of these other sites and get them publishing as well. So I'm going to go to my templates here. I've created a template for a site. And literally what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say, you know what, let's instantiate this template for site west. So I'm going to drag it into my model here. And I'm going to create metadata associated with it. So obviously we're in the US. I want to instantiate this for the west side, and it's going to be for the site 001. Need a preview here. This is what's going to build out. It's going to build out west with all the KPIs already defined. Hit continue, and it's now going to expand my model. All right, so I don't have to build it by hand. I now have this west model available here as well. Important part of the template is that I already in the template define where do I want to push it to. So in our integration tab here, you'll notice that I've already added both the Chariot and the HiveMQ public broker into it. So I'm going to push to both of these brokers simultaneously. I'm going to deploy this out. What that just means is Flow is going to get the historical data from Canary. It's going to start doing its calculations, save the result of those KPIs, and we're going to go and push them out. All right, so I'm going to push that out. While that is happening, I'm not pushing to the brokers as yet. So you'll notice that all of these guys are still not active. So I'm going to start deploying. Let's refresh, and you will see I'm going to start deploying these out. And as I deploy them, it's going to start pushing out these KPIs, and they should then be available on the brokers as well. You'll notice that we've got different time frames, so minutely KPIs, hourly KPIs, and all of this will create these different tags within the brokers as well. So you'll see a flow topic packing or getting generated in the public API or the public broker, and in there you will then start seeing the efficiencies of my inverters coming through as well. If you wondered about my funny accent, I'm sitting in South Africa, Johannesburg, so that's quite cool. Hey, publishing not only from the US but actually publishing data from all across the world, part of this Plugfest here today.
Hey, Lenny.
Cool. Yes.
You know, you're talking about calculations. One thing I've learned is that math is hard. If I had 50 cents for every math test I successfully passed, I'd have $8.40.
Sure.
not a fan of that one. I thought that was pretty good.
Alan, what's the difference between in South Africa you call it aluminium, it's aluminum apparently, but what's the difference between Iron Man and aluminum man?
I don't have any idea.
Iron Man kills his enemies, aluminum man foils the plan.
Love it.
Cool. All right, Travis, I think you should see some of my data popping up there as well.
We got a whole bunch more data for sure over here.
All right,
Perfect.
Let's see it, Travis.
So the Sparkle chart is, we call it Sparkle chart, starting to really, a lot more stuff added to it. So we got 24 devices now across 6 different nodes. So we have 6 different nodes out there publishing all these devices. So we go and look, of course, at the data. We got now we got flow, as he was showing in there, all the different devices. So with one, go look, for example, at the Atlantic East Inverter 1 performance, and that performance, or let's see.
Yep, that's right. It's in the performance ratio. And if you open up that,
and then inside there we go.
There we go.
So there's our value, the start and end of that. But all of those metrics, I mean, you could see there's a whole slew of them, right, that are being published in. And he, in this particular case, you publish it to both brokers simultaneously, and that means that I don't have to actually go and retransmit that from the Ignition side because it's already going to that public broker. So that's pretty cool.
Well, what
One
about
thing
landing?
that I just want to mention there, sorry, is a little bit different from real-time data, obviously. So you'll notice that we don't only just push the data, we just also push the time frame or the time bucket associated with that data. Being it, if you just look at that that guy there, you'll see that we've got a period and period start, just to tell us what is the time frame that we actually calculated that data for. So it's a little bit different from real-time data, but we just tell you that information as well.
But it is really important here, though, that we'll make, I think Arlen and I talked about this last time on one of the Integrate Lives, where we talked about UNS, Jeff, you know, and how it's not just the production data, it's also analytic data that we want to bring into it. And I think this kind of represents or shows how we can bring in all that data into a common namespace, and that we could tap into that from multiple different places. So I don't know, it gets me very excited to see this stuff.
Well, you do have a question about how did the template know which tags to apply?
So we've got placeholders. Let me quickly show that. I'm just going to share my screen again. So when I selected the area and the site, in my template, I have this capability to just use placeholders. We call them model attributes. So that can be metadata that you want to associate to this piece of equipment. In my case, it's the fleet and the site. You'll notice that I can then replace in part of the tag naming convention any one of those model attributes. So another great thing, we've been standardizing on a namespace on naming here, right? So I can now start using to build an intelligence in here to auto-address these things now. If you're familiar with Ignition, it's the same concept when you build a UDT and you add parameters to that UDT to auto-address. We just use our model attributes or metadata associated to the KPI.
Great. And this is just a bit self-serving, obviously, with my association with Flow. But Lenny, one thing I think you should just point out is it's not just time series data that you can build those KPIs off of. Yeah.
Correct. So think about it. If we now have an MES solution that fits in that center or platform space for our more applications that sits in the business side, I could have got data from a SQL database, transactional data. I could have created calculations based on that. LIMS system or laboratory systems, weighbridge information. So a little bit more on the application or the business application side, I could have brought that in. I can then create calculations based on multiple of these data sources, and then feed the UNS with these combination of these things. It's almost like liberating a old legacy PLC by converting it. Think about now taking data from an MES system that doesn't have real Sparkplug capability, creating a KPI of that MES data and pushing that out as well.
Cool. Also, you can pull out of a SQL database, which is relational, and give it a timestamp and start to use it in analytics, which is amazing.
100%. Yeah.
All right, Benson, he kicked stuff over to Chariot. Do you have the ability down there at the edge to grab something?
Well, let's check it out. So here I am back in the Ignition Designer running on the Epic. So as I noted earlier, this is the data that I'm publishing from my Edge tag provider. But what I've also done is it turns out that Ignition Edge also supports MQTT Engine. Now, real quickly, as we've discussed before, transmission allows me to publish tags out over a persistent connection, meaning I can also receive traffic back to, say, turn on a turbine and so on, and some of you have done that. But Engine will allow me to also connect to the same broker and consume whatever tags I like. Now, I could consume all the tags that are being produced right now, but I'm out at the edge. And really what I care about is some of the analytics that Flow Software did that may be relevant to what I'm doing out in the field. So for that matter, I'm going to actually use MQTT Engine module. I'll come in here and same thing. I've enabled the MQTT Engine and I've connected to that same broker. Now I'm going to be able to subscribe to tags as well. But I've also filtered which tags I actually want to see. I only want to see tags that are relevant to me in the field. So I've set up some namespaces and just put a filter. So I'm only seeing flow tags. So let's see what those look like. I go to my different tag provider, which is MQTT Engine here, and I click, and I can see there's my edge nodes, there's Initech Energy, but rather than seeing everybody's tags, I actually only see the flow tags, and there they all are. Since Lenny started publishing his data, I was able now to consume that data, and I can bring it right in. There's West Site Met1, well site inventory performance, and so I can just start pulling in some of this data and take a look at it. So there's my degree C, production hourly, there's a value. But what's more, of course, is that Ignition Edge also has vision and perspective modules in them. And these are, of course, for local HMI. So I've built a window here of just my local stuff, but now I want to start pulling in analytics data that Flow generated and maybe put it right on my dashboard. That's easy enough to do. I can simply grab a tag here, drag it out onto my dashboard, and we'll just put this as, again, an LED display. I kind of like those. We'll just go ahead and pull in that, and let's pull in this performance ratio. We've got a folder here, production minutely, and we'll pull that value in there too, and we'll put it also as an LED display. And there we go. Now I have tags on my local HMI that might be useful to an operator with external data. I'll go ahead and save those changes, and then I'm going to go over to my Vision client. Here it is, and it says project updated available. I just added a couple tags. So I'll go ahead and click here to update and click the button when I can. There it is. And now my tags are coming in from Lenny. Also all my tags here. I'll go ahead and start the turbine directly from this local HMI. And there you go. I can turn on and off my stack lights. So I'll switch over so you can see, clicking the AB red stack light off, the green stack light off, turning on and off the turbine, coming back to my main screen, and there you can see it. So really a lot of capabilities we can do at the edge, not only publishing data, operational data up to infrastructure for others to consume, but also to be able to subscribe to specific data that might be useful to me in the field.
And look at the how easy the integration was without having to have specific REST APIs or this or that going back and forth between. We've all built these things, right? And they're very complicated and sometimes brittle. This really demonstrates that UNS be able to publish, data from the edge, get data from applications being published back to the edge, use that to not only visualize but also to control your process if you want to go that far. It gets really, very exciting and opens a lot of doors and what customers can do with it.
The only tags that have been created in this whole process have been at the source site.
That's correct. And another thing that's important, and of course, Arlen is fond of saying this as well. What's really critical here is there is no code. This is tooling on platforms, not coding on platforms. We're not doing Python and REST API calls and developing C applications or anything like that. We're using off-the-shelf tools on commercially available hardware and commercially available software to pull all these pieces together. That's a critical component. So that learning curve is much flatter than you don't have to hire developers. And what's more important is that these tooling is really specifically set up for OT folks, right? So if I have an OT background and I have these tools and I have all this free training on Inductive, I've got free training on Opto, on PLC Next, everybody is providing these tools for OT people to really do interesting things, democratize this data, do something useful in the field, and solve real problems. And that's
using the IT technology to do it. It's
Correct.
using TLS. It's using certificates. It's using LDAP. All these mechanisms that we need to be able to leverage to get cybersecurity and our security teams to approve the data traffic flow. And it's amazing.
Yeah, as little reliance on IT as possible, but using all those IT technologies to accomplish the task.
Yep.
But you guys are starting to sound like you're doing a conclusion, like a wrap up or something. No, we're not done. We got more stuff to build. Because
sorry, just one last thing, Jeff. Thing for us at Flow very important is that we don't want to keep data or information hostage. I mean, we took the data, we turned it into information. Benson just done there to show that piece of information to a guy in a tool that he's used to. He's used to looking at that HMI. It's not another place he needs to go and look. It's right in his face. It's shared with everything. And to Alan's point, it's because we use open standard technologies to make all of this work.
Right.
All right. Cool. Thanks, Lenny. I'm booting you. See
Cool.
ya.
Thanks.
Thanks, Lenny.
All right. It's time to get some. It's time to turn it up a bit, Travis. Show us the what you call it, the sparkle. Is that
There's
the
sparkle chart.
Okay. We've got some devices, but I think it's time we introduce a bunch more. Let's start with Sean. Let's bring in Sean. Hey, Sean. Sean, do me a favor. You should have the ability to simulate a whole bunch of devices out on the edge. You want to push them up to the MQTT broker and let's see them come online?
Yeah, let me go ahead and do that here, Jeff. I'm going to start that right now.
All right.
Hey, while we're waiting, Arlen, I have a friend of mine who just built a new house, and he was complaining to me about his water bill, and so I sent him a get well soon card.
Actually,
I do. Yeah,
my
I am
landlord
drilling a
called
well.
and complained. He said, landlord said my utility bill has been just absolutely horrific this winter. Can I come talk to you? I said, sure, door's always open. All right, Sean, what's going on over on your world? Are you publishing?
Yes. Yeah, there should be things coming across.
All right, Travis, did you see anything new pop in?
Don't quite see it yet.
All right, let's come back to you, Sean. Take it offline, see if you can find out what's going on there. How about Arlen? You've got a whole bunch of devices ready to go, right?
Yeah, let's start up a swarm here.
All right.
These are actually real Ignition edge devices, if you will, and we've got a few here that we'll start up. So we'll start up one swarm right now. So Travis, what'd you end up with there?
Well, we got 215 devices now across 40 different nodes. So I forget how many was in that particular swarm, but we discovered a whole bunch of new stuff. I mean, just like that.
All right, and we'll start up a second swarm. And the thing that's cool here is that Travis can show, I mean, we literally can blow away everything that Travis has just discovered, connect back to the broker, and learn it all again.
Yeah.
And know, again, it's a single source of truth. So we know what we discovered is all correct coming back into the system. So there we're up to, what, 400 devices?
Yeah, across 70 nodes now. So another
Yep.
30 nodes were added there. Mm-hmm. It is a thing of beauty. And we have almost 30,000 tags that were automatically discovered here across all these different edge devices.
Yep.
All right. Well, what do we have left to do? We've hit this. We've turned on the swarm. We've got all the tags. Are they showing up over on our HiveMQ public?
I will do that now. I'll get that to start taking all of that data across those different edge nodes, which of course there are 70 of them, and those will start publishing here. So yeah, all that data will now be going to public so people can play with it too.
Okay, thanks, Travis. Well, that's going to start to be the end of that build. Let's bring, I want to bring Todd back in. Hey, Todd, you ready for us? Here he comes. So I'm going to drop you out. Benson, I'm going to drop you off. Thank you, sir. All right, Todd, wrap it up for the audience. Tell us why all of that mattered, what they just saw, and then we're going to talk about next steps for our audience.
Okay, hopefully my network connectivity is okay. Why does that matter? using Sparkplug as that standard, that allowed all that connectivity, all the plug and play to just work. And that matters because me as an end user, I need to have confidence that whatever devices I'm going to use, if they say they're Sparkplug compliant, I need to know that without having to test it. So for instance, if I'm going to get a LoRaWAN device that needs to talk standard LoRaWAN, I go to the LoRaWAN Alliance. I pick from the people that are in the LoRaWAN Alliance because I know they adhere to a certain standard. So if I can find what I need there, I'm not going to go do a Google search on something else. Same thing here. If I have if I need something that's Sparkplug compliant, I'm going to go to the Eclipse Foundation, who is in the working group. I'm going to, if I can find something that satisfies what I need in the working group, I don't need to go anywhere else. So why would I spend time Googling or have somebody that works for me Googling Sparkplug compliant devices when I can have confidence that this works? And I can also, by participating in the working group, I can drive what I perceive is an industry standard or going to be an industry standard. If I need some functionality like file transfer protocol or file transfers in Sparkplug, I can say, hey, I think we need this so I can get my stuff out of my flow meters. It can be done. And then I can be confident that when people add that functionality, they test it to the TCK, it's going to work. I don't have to spend my time testing. So that's the real impact for me.
Yeah. And so really the message I heard, Todd, is to two different, to our audience, put yourself in one of these two camps. Are you a vendor? Are you a hardware or a software manufacturer? If you are, and you want to embrace Sparkplug, you need to join the working group. You need to join the working group because you have a commercial stake in the success of Sparkplug, right? You also need to download the TCK for free, run your product through the TCK, make sure you're compliant with the spec. Arlen, how do they get that TCK? How do they get started on that?
Well, I think if you Google just Eclipse Sparkplug Working Group, it goes to that page, and then from there, there's all the links to be able to go to the GitHub site. The GitHub site.
Let Travis share his screen. He'll show what Arlen's talking about. Arlen, you can go ahead and restart.
No, and then that's where you get to the GitHub, and you can download the current 3.0 Sparkplug specification.
Look at that. Good look. Whose picture is that right there?
Yeah.
So sparkplug.eclipse.org is the domain, and when you go there, if you want to get listed under the get listed area, that's where you can download the TCK and do all of that. Get a file for to pass that and file for a get listed request, and then that's under the get listed or compatible products. This is what Todd was talking about. So there's a bunch of products. Since this was just released, a bunch of products are in the queue that have already tested. For example, Ignition, the Cirrus Link modules are just waiting for the approval and to get put on the website, but they have been passed the TCK. And there's other products out there like Opto's devices from a hardware standpoint that will be doing the same thing. So this list will really fill out. I'd say in the next few weeks, you'll start seeing a lot more products in there.
Yeah. You can also go back last week and watch the pre-rundown where we went in depth and talked all about that.
Right.
Yeah. Now that's to the vendors. That's to our hardware and software providers.
Well, go ahead, Todd.
Oh no, I think Jeff is going to allude to what I wanted. Last point I want to add.
Yeah. So that's the vendors. Now, what about the end users? What about the companies? What about the system integrators? What is their role? Do you need to go join the working group? Well, listen, you can. It may or may not make sense for you, but what do we need to see Sparkplug evolve? There's a ton of ideas. There's really good ideas about where Sparkplug could go or should go. What do we need? We need workers. We need helpers. We need people that are willing to commit to the project. How do we get involved?
When we say that? Okay, well, I want to do one more piece of advantage for me from a financial standpoint, which is part of what you were saying. MQTT, Arlen says is great, is open. If I came up with a Chevron flavor MQTT, I'm going to have to pay someone a yearly salary to create and maintain that. When that person leaves, guess what? It's gone. Plus, I'm not going to talk to the Rockwells, Emersons, Opto 22s and say, hey, will you implement the Chevron flavor of MQTT? No, that doesn't make them any money. We want to implement a standard. So being on Sparkplug working group, yes, it costs some money, but way less than paying someone a full salary to manage this for Chevron, which is not even going to be taken in and used by any vendors. So I'm coming out ahead of the deal, steering an industry standard and being a part of this group. And yes, I do have a committer that helps to commit, and that's what you're alluding to. You don't have to be a part of the steering committee necessarily. You can have some skin in the game and have committers on the team that help do some of the work, or at least drive where we go from here.
Yeah,
correct.
Yeah, exactly. So Jeff, to your point, how people get going, clearly anybody can participate with how to pay a dime, right? So ideas can flow into the Sparkplug groups. You can go to the GitHub sites and you can put issues that you have in there or ideas you have in there. You could be a committer or a contributor. You just simply sign an Eclipse contributor agreement and you are in. You can start getting access to that and helping further the spec even more. And if you want to go further, it's where you can get on technical committees or steering committees or the actual working group. And the working group is really, it's designed to push Sparkplug forward into the industry. And that's our goal, right? That's part of what we're doing here today, is to really talk about the possibilities. But you could be on the committees as well and just come and participate. Just listen in, just see what the discussions are like. And if you want to go further and have a committer go further, please, feel free to do so. But you're not obligated by any means.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. Hey, I'm going to start bringing everybody back in. We're going to do 2 waves of it just so that we can do a thank you. So here we can only put 10 people on screen at one time. Look alive, everybody. You're coming in. There's our first bat. Well, let's just, Travis, Arlen, thank you so much for helping Alan and I direct this thing. It was a huge build, big task. Well done. Thank you. Todd, thank you so much for bringing in the business use cases. HiveMQ guys, Kuzai, Jens, thank you, man. Appreciate your, Kuzai, you put a lot of time in dedicated to this. Thank you so much, Jens. Thanks for being monitoring the situation, awesome. And thanks again for MQTT-FX. That's awesome that was your baby.
Thank you.
Solid. Software Toolbox and DataHub. A lot more from you. Thank you so much. And Sean, thanks for grabbing all that history. Thank you. All right, I'm gonna say goodbye to these guys.
Ciao.
See you, gents. See you, Todd. All right, let's see. Here comes Jake. Here comes Lenny and Josh. Make sure I did not leave anybody out from my long list down here in the bottom. Benson. Did I not have Benson in the first one? Benson's smiling at me. Sorry, Benson.
No worries.
Hey, Jake and Josh, thanks for taking part in this, guys. We really appreciate you.
Thank you. Yeah, my pleasure.
I'd tell you, Lenny, I owe you a burger for your work, but frankly, I've bought you way too many cheeseburgers in the last 60 days. No more burgers for Lenny. And Benson, as always, man, thank you for all the work that you did. And it came out real well. So, cool. Guys, we'll talk to you here on the next one. Alan, what is our next move?
Next move is PLC to SAP and back to the PLC.
All right. And last 2 Wednesdays of February, we'll be right back here on StreamYard. Who's got a calendar? What is the last 2 Wednesdays of February?
It's the 15th and I think the 22nd.
As long as you got the 15th right, I can promise it's the 22nd. So
15th and 22nd.
15th will be the virtual workshop. 22nd will be the rundown. Software Toolbox with DataHub, PLC, Phoenix Contact with PLC Next. And we're going to SAP and coming back. That sounds like a big job. All right, we'll see how that works. SAP won't complicate things at all, I'm sure. Again, Arlen, Travis, thank you guys for being here. And this was a successful Plugfest. Everybody, thank you.
Awesome.
Have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so
All
much.
right.
Thanks, everyone.